What is going on, everybody? It's Off the Mic Sports Network. We're going to do some sports content. We're actually going to talk some college football, something that I cover on a pretty extensive basis. And the big story coming out this week was that the AP poll came out. Not very surprising with, some of the top tier teams, but a very close vote between Texas and Penn State. I think it was like 5 votes that separated them, 5 points that separated these two. It was the closest vote since 1998. Texas number 1, Penn State number 2. And if you asked me who's the favorite to win the national championship in 2025, I honestly, gun to my head, I could probably give you about 4 different answers because this is the most unpredictable season of college football that we have seen in a long time because there's so much unknown. The national champions in the Ohio State Buckeyes literally lost about half their team. Granted, they still keep two of the best underclassmen in college football, maybe the 2 best players in college football, in Caleb Downs, the safety, and Jeremiah Smith, the wide receiver, who may turn into being, if he keeps going on the trajectory that he's going on, may turn into one of the best college football players of all time. I'm not even exaggerating. He had an incredible freshman season last year. But Ohio State's got a lot of changes. Texas, who they beat in the semifinal in the Cotton Bowl, who's ranked number 1, they have uncertainty at quarterback. Quinn Ewers has been their starter for a long time. Arch Manning, even with the Manning name, you don't know what you're going to get. And then you look further down, Clemson's bringing a bunch of people back, but can we trust Dabo Swinney after all those years? Miami brings in Carson Beck. Georgia's got a new quarterback. The list is endless of like a bunch of different teams that you could think of. Like, in the other semifinal, like you had Penn State and Notre Dame. Notre Dame, they lost their quarterback, Riley Leonard, and they're obviously extremely talented. I think they're ranked 5th in the poll. But the top 2 teams that honestly you would pinpoint from a talent perspective, just in a personnel perspective, and in some ways experience and coach, it would have to be Penn State and Texas. So I think the poll's got this right. And what I'm interested to see is, and this is the big picture question that I want to ask, and I know there may be Texas and Penn State fans because I know a lot of them on both ends. Who's got more pressure to win? I think both these teams have an immense amount of pressure to win. Texas has not been to a national championship game, I think, since 2009 when Colt McCoy screwed up his shoulder literally again in like the first series against Alabama. They haven't won one since 05-06, that 05-06 season, that incredible Rose Bowl against USC. So it's been a long time for Texas. Penn State, I can't even tell you offhand the last time that Penn State played for a national championship or won one. And James Franklin has been there for an eternity. That guy has been there so freaking long. It's unbelievable in this day and age of college football where, coaches are kind of disposable. And, the standards of the job at Penn State, obviously following a legend in Joe Paterno, and we obviously know how that whole thing ended. But, the white helmets, the blue, it's an iconic, clean look in college football. And they've never really been to the precipice of, even in the college football playoff era. Last year was the first time they ever got there because of the 12-team format. And this team was playing for a Big Ten championship. They had only done that a couple of times since, the Big Ten went to the championship game format. So if you ask me, because of, and the other thing with Penn State is they return, like we talk about uncertainty across the nation. Penn State's one of the rare teams, at least in the top 10, that has, a returning starter in Drew Aller. All the physical gifts in the world, but some of his decision-making, cost them last year. But this guy could potentially end up being, depending on how he performs this year, could be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft next year. My Cleveland Browns are very interested in him. He's a guy from the area, locally in Ohio, grew up a Browns fan. So there's pressure on him to deliver. They bring in a bunch of transfer receivers. They brought in one from Syracuse, one from USC. Obviously, they lost Abdul Carter on the defensive side of the ball, but, hey, they bring in Jim Knowles, the defensive coordinator from the national champion Ohio State Buckeyes. They've got a great offensive coordinator in Andy Kotelnicki. Like, listen, Penn State fans know what's going on. I think Texas has got pressure on them to win a national championship, no question, because of who they are. But Arch Manning, I don't know if Arch Manning's going to go to the NFL after one season. I think they may have a 2-year window to win this. They absolutely should deliver on investment because, hey, listen, they were in a semifinal 2 years ago. They lose to Washington, and then they made it to the semifinals. They won 2 games in the playoff, or they won 1 game in the playoff. They had the bye. Actually, did they won 2 games in the playoff? They beat Arizona State. And they beat Clemson. And then, they lost that game to Ohio State, that heartbreaker in the Cotton Bowl. Penn State, man, like they were like one bad throw from Drew Aller away from potentially playing for a national title. And this team is talent, and this team may be more talented than they were last year. And they had a great player in Tyler Warren. So, gun to my head, if you're asking me, like, listen, the favorite to win the national title right now, I would probably say is Texas, and they got it right at number 1. That being said, Texas has got to go play Ohio State the first week of the season. To me, and I've looked at Penn State's, like they're going to have to play some tough teams in conference, obviously, but they're not going to really get tested until they get to Big Ten play. And you've got a returning starter who's started for multiple years. You've got great transfer wide receivers. You've got an experienced head coach. You have the heartbreak and motivation from last year. To me, this is a do or die year for Penn State. This is a do or die year for the Nittany Lions. And if they don't win, I don't know if James Franklin is ever going to win a national championship. This is probably the most talent that he will ever get. You went and spent big money on a defensive coordinator in Jim Knowles. I love Tom Allen, but I think they upgraded at defensive coordinator. You've got a great offensive mind. You've got also your running backs, Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. Those guys, maybe the best running attack in the one of the best running attacks in the nation coming back. And you add all those wide receivers. Yes, I understand they lost Tyler Warren, who was maybe one of the best tight ends, not just one of the best tight ends, one of the best players in college football last year. They still have good people over on that side of the ball. So if not now, when for Penn State? Texas, I understand it's been a long wait, and they've got high expectations for Arch Manning. But if they don't win, I think Arch Manning's coming back next year. Drew Aller's done after this year. And that may be one of the best quarterbacks that you get in that building for a long time. And you don't get experience and get a chance to have a guy that talented come back, have better weapons when you were 1 win away from a national championship, and, honestly, now see yourselves in a position to potentially win it. Their schedule is not that hard, at least early on. If you get somewhat through the Big Ten, the Big Ten is probably going to get 3, maybe 4 teams into the college football playoff like they did last year. Penn State is more talented than almost any team in the entire country, and they've got the experience on their side. They better fucking win this year. The Nittany Lions of Penn State, to me, have the most pressure on them of any team in college football this year. Texas has a compelling argument. I don't think Ohio State has any pressure on it. They have more pressure to beat Michigan this year than win a national championship because they're going to probably name their quarterback. Yes, I understand who they are, and it's Ohio State, but they got to worry about beating Michigan before winning another national title. They accomplished their goal. That's the more important thing. Any of the other teams you could come up with, Clemson, obviously, that'll be an interesting thing. But to me, really, this conversation lies with the 1 and 2 teams in this poll. And both of them haven't won a championship in a long time, and this has been the whole narrative with James Franklin. It's close, but not enough. He finally got there. They won a couple games in the playoff, and then they came up short against Notre Dame in that Orange Bowl. And it's a game of what if. They get a lot of people back, they better fucking win. Anyway, that's some college football content. We'll have more coming here on the channel. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. I'll see you guys. Bye-bye.